Basic macro system, and it was all, its own little Visual Basic window that had been gussied up by whatever UI developer, probably in 1998. Not much had changed. And they were, the group I was working with were radiologists in Maricopa County, Arizona. Very specific, very niche. And then eventually I moved out to nationwide, all of the radiologists in America, the United States. And they had this interesting, they have this really weird teleradiology system where, like, if you have a license anywhere in the United States, you can usually get a reciprocity deal with any other state in the union, and they'll be like, yeah, sure, you have the ability to read radiologist to read images from anywhere in the country. Like, you had to specifically register with each individual state, but it was pretty much just a reciprocity deal. Like, yeah, no problem, we got it. So they'll ship all of their images in a particular company to Maricopa County, and then those radiologists read them and then ship them back. Fortunately, it was all digital, so it was nice and fast. But the way that it worked was I had to go into each individual provider's record, find out who they worked for, go to the list of companies that they worked for, some of which are different DBAs, doing business as, and copy down all of their individual numbers, and then find out all of their individual tax affiliations. There were sometimes many, because for every single different state that your company reads for, there's a different tax ID number. And then you have to take all of that information and put it on the provider's record. And I went about, 2-3 days worth of this, and I was like, man, fuck this. I don't have time. It was taking me like 2 hours to get one provider done. And I was just like, no, this is stupid. A computer can do this. So I got the Visual Basic macro, and I called my buddy Dave over. I was like, Dave, you gotta help me with this, because, like, I don't know Visual Basic, but let me know. And so Dave's like, all right. So this is kind of the way Visual Basic works. And I was like, okay, so, like, is this the structure? And I build out a program. He's like, yeah, that's fine. Like, there's some nuance here, but you know what? You pretty much got it. So I spent like 2 hours with him getting primed. I spent about 40 hours, the entire next week, working out exactly how this was going to work, and yelling in frustration at it and calling him back over for, a minute, being like, no, that's not the way syntax works. Fix this. And then at the end of the week, I spent pretty much like it was only a 6-hour day. All right, so it was only 24 hours of frustrating yelling at the computer and fixing things, and then about 6 hours of making it work and tweaking little things. I went to my boss and I said, all right, look, my numbers are kind of low for this week, but I promise you they're going to be, like, spiked next week. And she's like, okay. So I spend the entire day Monday running it, doing nothing else but just running it. And on Tuesday morning, she comes up, slams her stack of papers down on the table, and she's like, what did you do? I'm just sitting there laughing. I'm like, yep, okay, let me show you. So she thought that I was just, like, manipulating the system to make it, basically like add and subtract. I don't know what she thought I was doing, but I was like, no, let me show you. So I pull it up and I show her, all right, I click this, and now it goes in and it reads the individual, it reads the provider's record and copies all of the places they work, puts that into an array. Then it goes into the first place and it copies into a secondary array all of the tax affiliations. And then it goes back to the provider's record and writes them all. Then it goes back into the next company they work for, so number 2 on this list, copies all their tax affiliations, writes them into the provider's file, goes to the third one, and et cetera, et cetera. It goes all the way through everything. There were only like some minor fixes that needed to be done. Occasionally it would stall because it's expecting this one little field to be FS, and instead it's actually supposed to be FN because it's belonging to like this very, again, niche problem. So showed her everything, how it all worked, and she was just like, you could do that? I'm like, yes. This is a very simple macro. The biggest problem I had was occasionally you'd need to program in a wait time so that it would populate the next screen before you execute the next code. It was really frustrating, but whatever, fine. So I got all that stuff. Oh, yes. Now, granted, it was only a $500 bonus, but that was $500 for 20 hours worth of work. So, like, yeah, on top of my regular, hourly wage or whatever. Yes. So, 20-ish dollars an hour extra. I wasn't really complaining that much, even though this technically was getting our stalled project back on track for like there were 4 people working on this before I got to it, and then they were all one at a time taken off to work on something else that was actually more pressing, and they were like, whenever you have time, figure this out. And I was like, great. But yeah, so it was a stalled project that they were just like practically giving up on. And I got it back on track single-handedly with, literally 20 hours worth of work. So was it 500? I think it was 500. I suddenly had a thought, like maybe it was 1,500, but no, it was probably 500. Yeah, the company's not going to pay off like a huge amount, but but I was like, I went to Dave, the guy who reminded me how Visual Basic works. I was like, hey man, I'm gonna buy you something. So ended up buying him like a game from the game store, because we were also part of a he was also hosting a lot of games, game days and stuff like that with his friends. So here's my appreciation. Interesting. That could be a number of different things. Yep. Yeah, so I've kind of messed around with channel moderation settings. It could be that I put it to like, family friendly or something like that, which whatever, it's fine. Yeah, I'm sure that the CEO knew exactly how many hours I saved them. But oh well. And it was like, this was a job that I got hired at, I want to say 36,000, which you're only supposed to like need a master's degree for it. Or sorry, need a bachelor's degree for it, which was about on track for how much I was going to get paid pretty much anywhere else. So I'm like, whatever. And then I had to prorate it to 30 hours a week instead of 40 because I was also working at the community college as an adjunct. I was doing either 1 or 2 classes a semester just to get experience, to try and get my foot in the door, to have everybody recognize, like, hey, I should be on your staff. Um, and it was yeah, so we also have an associate's, which is a 2-year degree. That's what we would give out at the community college. Um, and it's not trade school because it is academic. I don't know what the equivalence is, but yeah, is A level like the equivalent of a 2-year experience, give or take? I need to do my research on UK education, obviously. 2 years to get into uni. Okay. And then uni is another 4? Or if you have A levels, do you get like a leg up? Or more, depending. Okay. Yeah, so it seems like A levels are kind of your masters in 5. Yeah, okay. So we usually do masters in 5 or 6, depending on what program you're in. So like my education program would have been 5. I could get a 1-year master's if I did all of my classes concurrently with an internship in a local high school. So it would have been like absolute murder to do it, but I could have done it. Instead, as it was, I did 4 for bachelor's, and then I took 2.5 for my master's because I was only doing 1 or 2 classes every semester in the opposite role as me teaching classes. So it was either 1 or 2, but in the opposite amount. And it all depended on when my classes were offered for the masters, because there were certain ones that I definitely wanted to take, and other ones I definitely did not want to take. The stochastic processes and master's level statistics I did not want to take. I took 1 master's level statistics, which was required for everybody. Which was calculus-based statistics, which was fine, except, and I've said this before, the teacher had this habit of writing on the chalkboard and then turning around with his eyes closed, looking at the class, and then looking at the top corner of the room and speaking, and then turning back around and writing stuff on the board, turning back around to the class with his eyes closed, looking up at the corner of the room and opening his eyes. And I'm just like, oh God, this is gonna kill me. Like, he's got his thing and it works for him, but at the same time, like, it's a habit and I've now noticed it. I don't know if it was anxiety or if it's like a tick or just some odd. I don't want to, obviously I don't want to like diagnose, but like maybe autism spectrum disorder, maybe like it's just the thing that he does. But yeah, it was like, okay, like this is your thing. Maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's just a thing that you're doing. But yeah, it was like, I've now noticed it, and it was hard to not notice. Then, like, I'd ask a question, and he'd look directly at me. So, I mean, at least that was the case. But it was also like, if somebody asks a question, he would also kind of look at them with, like, a disbelieving look, like, you're interrupting me? I have a script. So maybe I'd lean more toward anxiety for that. But yeah, social anxiety, social cues, whatever. This was also a program where every teacher was a professional at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab. And so, like, every person who was a teacher also worked there, and so they're not actually trained educators. They're instructors who can, in fact, instruct everybody at how to do things. But I'd say probably all of them, almost all of them, had like zero training in how to teach classes. And so I'm just like, oh. Me, the person who had a so predominantly there is an entire wing of Johns Hopkins that is devoted to medical, and like they do the campus that's in Baltimore. So the campus that is like the main campus in Baltimore City is a medical university. It's not exclusively medical. It's always had a good mix, mostly undergrad, but their graduate program in medicine is extremely good. Their graduate program in law, I think, is fairly well known. Their like STEM stuff is very good, but like if you're doing graduate work in mathematics especially, you want to go to Chicago. Like University of Chicago is the place to be. But Hopkins is very well known. I was at the Applied Physics Lab in Laurel, Maryland, which is not very well known. but I still went there and yes, MD or medical doctor if you want to go there too. But I still went there because the program was convenient. It was close to our house. It was, I don't know, maybe like a 20-minute drive or something like that. So sure, why not? From my college, it was like a 10 to 15-minute drive. It was very convenient. That probably just gave it away for somebody. But yeah, I kind of liked it. I was a little bit miffed at the fact that our instructors were not educators, in the sense that they don't necessarily know how to teach, apart from what they've just kind of gleaned. Do radii. What? Oh, yeah. Get a map. I got you. So, yeah. So, and let me tell you, 15 minutes is very different over there compared to here. Oh, man. It said we were 40 minutes away from our destination and had 15 miles to go. I was like, are you kidding me? But no, that made sense when we actually got on the road. Yeah. We're often we're anywhere in the United States. It's like 15 minutes. All right, you got to go about 15 miles. Somewhere between 10 and 15 miles. Here it was like, you got 15 miles to go? Awesome, 40 minutes. I'm like, ugh. But I mean, it was right, because we had the average speed along that entire stretch was probably about 30 miles an hour, depending on, a little bit higher, maybe 40. Yeah, exactly. my spouse looked up when when the next train was going to be, because we had actually stopped at a train station, because I was like, I don't effing know where to go. We want food and we want bathrooms. Like, I don't know. Where do we want to be? Like, where do we want to go? Fine, I don't know, train station. Let's, because that was the most easily recognizable place. And, my kid's like, you've ignored me because I had to go to the bathroom so bad. And I'm like, I didn't realize you had to go to the bathroom so bad because you just said, like, hey, next time we stop. And I was like, I don't know, we're going to pull off here and find food. Sure. 20 minutes later, pull into the parking lot, and she's like, ah. But anyway, yeah, we sat down for lunch, and spouse takes out the phone and looks up, like, how long would it take for me to get from here, literally the train, which leaves in 5 minutes, which she would have never made, to be clear. She would never have made it in time. How long would it take me to get from this train, or using this train to get from here to home, which is, we're within a few minutes walk-ish of a train station. So, how long would it take? She looked it up. It was like, you guys, it's going to take about 45 minutes to get there by car, and it would take me about 40 minutes to get home, like, including train and walking. So it was like, roughly the same amount of time, but probably the train was faster. Then our kid looks at her and is like, yeah, but you wouldn't have lunch. She's like, well, there's the plan. It's completely scuppered. Yep, 100%. All right, I'm going to take a quick break here, hit the cycle some water. And actually enter the enter my who's it Trivia League answers and whatever. So we'll take a 3-minute break. We'll come back and we'll talk more about calculus. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in chat. I will be right back. So those of you who don't know me, I am Obi-Wan Pez. This is N Simplex Pachenko. We do math here. So be back in a few. Alrighty, and we're back. Hope everybody got a nice little stretch in or something. At any rate, hydrate everybody. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in chat. So I forgot the Roll the Dice app was a good one for Twitch. Thanks for reminding me about that. Yeah, still definitely didn't submit. Let's see, one question is about world politics. Somewhere between world history and current events. Oof. This guy's #1 category is current events, but world history is very low. Put a score for that one. Games and sport, he'll probably know chess pretty well. Geography, pretty good. Business and econ, also pretty good. Oh. Literature, fairly crap, just like mine. And sport, pretty close to the top. Yeah, we'll go like that. Alright, second person. Math, science, and games and sport are at the top, so I'm going to go with 0 for chess again. Business econ's pretty high. There's a significant fall off for literature. So that's good, probably. Geography's pretty down there as well. We'll go like this. We'll see how it goes, because quite frankly, I'm not doing terribly well in this trivia league anyway. So okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah. All right. Whatever. Of the 6 questions, I got 2. Ouch. But we'll see how everybody else did and whether they got screwed over as well. All right. Apologies. Okay, so 4 hour. Yeah, and obviously Sensation asked me any other questions you want about the other stuff we were talking about, or if we can continue my story because I don't even remember where I left off. Anyway,